All right, welcome, Mushin Warriors, to another episode of Mushin Mental Academy, where our purpose is to provide tools for engagement and presence. Today's episode, I want to talk about what I call full spectrum illumination. So, my definition, or how I like to play with these words, is to define a state of complete consciousness, awareness, harmony, and flow. State where we feel like we're truly being ourselves. That's what I refer to as a state of full spectrum illumination. And the reason that I word it this way is because it helps me to visualize this particular area of life if I see it as a spectrum and as illumination. Okay? So let's jump right into what I mean with that and what some of the benefits from this perspective are, as well as some of the potential areas to focus on to help us live a harmonious life. Okay, so let's jump in. When we're in these states where we feel like we're fully aware, like we're fully conscious, it seems that we're in a state of flow. We're able to go, navigate life in a way that's beautiful. We're able to, you know, we have our feelings, we set our intentions, and we go, we act on them, and then the results seem to be harmonious with life, with existence. And if not, we get to actually notice what's going on. Our awareness is there, and we're able to listen and process information in a way that truly connects us and engages with presence. So if we're receiving information or stimulus that tells us that maybe we're wrong, that's fine. We'll just learn. We'll be like, oh, wow, like maybe I shouldn't have done that because this happened. Let me learn from my mistake. We're able to actively grow and continue with life, right? As opposed to states where we allow parts of ourselves to be and remain unconscious, even when we've been shown them. That is the contrast with the concept of full illumination, right? Or full spectrum illumination, excuse me. And when we're in those states, or if we exhibit the behaviors or we go ahead and take the steps, the actions that bring us into those states, well, life can get quite a bit more confusing. And we lose a lot of our power and ability to shape the world because what we're doing isn't beneficial. So it's literally limiting us in how we're able to interact because we are severing this relationship, the ability to communicate. Because awareness and complete, you know, consciousness is how we form open and complete connections. Just think of like if you're trying to, transmit a signal from a TV, for example, right? And you're using an HDMI cable. If you have a better cable that allows more of the signal to go by, you'll have a better quality image. Same thing with sound, and it's the same thing with how we interact with life. There's a probably not going to say this quote exactly, but I'll get it pretty close. But there's a statement that Carl Jung says that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life and we will call it fate. That's a very, very, very powerful and very beautiful, beautiful quote. So I'm actually going to say it again. Again, this is Carl Jung saying it, but until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life and we will call it fate. And what does that mean? It means that when we have these areas of ourselves that we don't look at or we don't want to work on and bring to light, we allow them to persist in darkness. And those are the areas that when we're drunk and say something we shouldn't have said, or we're upset and we lash out on somebody instead of really processing and handling the situation the way we feel it should have gone, that's the area that's coming out. That's what's going on. These areas of darkness, of unconsciousness, they're still part of who we are. And so in those moments, they're literally yelling at us. They're screaming. They're saying, please, like, you can't ignore me. Like, I'm part of you, dude. Like, what do you want? And by integrating these sides of us, by doing shadow work, by understanding these patterns that we set up, this is how we can move towards these areas of clarity, these areas where it seems like everything we touch turns to gold and there's just no friction in life. We're harmonious and we're getting to really just play, really dance and enjoy this existence. It doesn't mean it's always going to be easy, like by any means, but at least it'll be fulfilling. And God, is that like that's the sauce right there, at least to me. Like if I'm not feeling fulfilled, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It could be challenging. I could be doing something that's like awesome, but if I don't feel like I'm complete in it, it's pointless. It doesn't matter. And on top of that, these are the specific areas where we're going to cause damage. Okay? So what's an easy example of that? All right, you know, let's use like family and friends as an example, because I think this is a very easy one to bring up. I've seen so many times in so many situations where it seems like the people that are theoretically closest to each other, they're even in a relationship or they're married or it's just their family member or friends, their brother, sister, whatever, they don't actually really understand like the inner workings of each other. I'm not saying this is always the case, but I've seen it often where just because an area of life seems to be, like going well, let's say, oh, okay, this friendship is like really cool. I know this person's got my back. So therefore, I'm not going to worry about it. Like if I show up a little bit late to their house, they're going to forgive me. Oh, if I do this, they'll forgive me. If I actually, if I go eat their food, like it's fine. Like we're brothers. That's the same relationship as like what we hold with ourselves. And if we're doing that to others or to ourselves, like it's painful. It hurts. Instead of upkeeping these areas where, we've been given insight into situations or relationships that really do nourish us, like things that are beautiful, things we do enjoy, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go spend my time and my money in fueling this part, we say, okay, cool. I'm just going to like put a placeholder. I'm going to take from this and I'm going to fuel my energy into all the stuff that I don't want to do. Because that's what I often see is people like, well, I can't really spend time with this relationship. I got to focus on my work, or, I've got this issue with Betty. She's been bothering me, and I got to, Betty's this and Betty's, and it's like that to me is not the best way to go. Again, to each their own. But in my world, that only hurts me and Betty and everybody else because really what it is I'm utilizing these things as like a quick source of energy. By being able to like take these things that make us like angry, we're able to convert this into a form of energy that we're allowed to work and do things with. But that's what keeps us trapped into this slave situation. We're getting just enough to get by, but we're not really living. And that's how we can tell we're in that state, is if we feel like we're just getting enough to get by, but we're not living, we're not flourishing, we don't like we're stuck. That's probably what's going on, is that there are areas of unconsciousness that we've been given the opportunity to see, we've been shown it, but we've decided to let them be and just sit in darkness. Those are the ones that will come back for us. Those are the ones that are going to hurt us, and they're the ones that are going to hurt the world. Even with our friends, these are the areas where, like, if we're not watching ourselves, we'll create areas of opportunity for our closest, you know, dear loved ones to fall into that trap. Like if we've presented opportunities where, like going back to this one, if we're like, oh, well, whatever, that friend is, they're fine if I'm late. Well, like that person has their own schedule, they have their own things to do. And who knows, maybe something is going to happen that day where like they really need their organization to make sense. They need what they set beforehand to actually occur. And now if we're not paying attention to this and we're ignoring it, allowing it to go into like our unconscious area, we allow the opportunity, one, to hurt that person, and we create platform for them to join us in this area of unconsciousness. Because now they could be like, you know what, man, like this friend is always freaking late, man. Like I care about them, they're great, but it's just like every time. And like now they have this like thing, and it's like depending on what they do with that, it's going to hurt themselves, it's going to hurt your relationship, and it could hurt anyone that they go and bring that to too. So ultimately, the concept of full spectrum illumination is to be ourselves. It's to really tap into this state where we're listening to our connections, we're finding out who we are, and we're doing the work so that we're not blindsided by things that we should have already done and we should have known about ourselves or about the world. So I hope this brings some value. I know that to get this one requires a little bit of like, you know, like the self work at the beginning to kind of understand uh, what some of these words mean that I'm using. But yeah, this brings me tremendous value. It helps me to forgive. It helps me to understand myself, and it brings me clarity in the moment. So appreciate you as always. Be awesome, be beautiful, and be yourself.